Welcome to Codex, a history of video games. My name is Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week, we're doing the Mailbag episode because that's what we're doing this week. And we have a lot of emails stacked up that we need to get through here. So we want to try to get through as many as we can. So, Mike, you want to take it away with our first email here? Let's just get right into it.
Just get into those emails. The first email is from Xavier, and it is a very short email saying, can you do a history of Google Doodle games? They are very fun. And we had to look up what a Google Doodle game is. It's hard to say. Google Doodle?
Google Doodle?
And those are the games you see when you load up Google. Like, you know how usually it's like someone's picture to celebrate a person or a historical event? Sometimes they'll do games. And in fact, there's one right now. There is the
there?
Champion Island. Yes, it's
Google.
for the Olympics.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now. I didn't even know there was one going on right now.
Yeah, it's like a little 16-bit fun little art style pixel art game. And it's actually pretty fun. And it has some depth to it. So I think, yes, it would be really fun to do these. So we will definitely do those, Xavier. And I'm going to add them to the list. So
man.
I think
it's got music. That's cool.
It's actually, I played it one night when we were waiting for League. We were queuing on League and I played one at this game. And I'm like, it's got some substance to it. So yes, all right, we will definitely do that. So first email, boom, 1 minute. Nailed it.
Just blasting through these. The next email here is from Mo. Mo says, hey dudes, it's Mo. Random question for you guys. If you could flip a switch in your brain that would enable you to enjoy a video game as if you were a kid or young teen again, would you do it? Would you like to experience the incredible childlike wonder again, or would you rather maintain your more experienced gaming perspective? I find that the more games I play, the more difficult it becomes to find a game that really wows me. I still enjoy games a lot, but I sometimes wonder what it would be like to be 12 again playing Super Mario 64 for the first time. Spider Butts, Mo. Wow, that's a great question. I'm going to assume this is a switch we flip one time. Well, if it's one we can flip back and forth, then I would absolutely love a switch like that where I could just be like, I wonder what this game would be like if I was 8 years old again, and then play Ocarina of Time again, or play a more modern game with the knowledge of my 8-year-old self. If it's one that I couldn't turn off, I think I would skip it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike?
I think if we could turn it on and off, like at will, it's not permanent, the games that I'm nostalgic for, I will flip that switch. Because I got really bummed recently when I turned on Mario Kart 64 and it wasn't as I remembered it in my mind.
Ooh. Yeah.
And not super like bummed like, oh man, like I remember this being like the graphical milestone, which it was at the time, like it was super cool. Yeah. But then you realize you're like, oh yeah, it's just a sprite like on a background.
Yeah, you can see that it's not an actual 3D model and kind of takes you out of it, which when I was 8, I didn't care about or know about.
I was convinced it was a 3D model when I was a kid.
Would have never noticed.
So I think doing it for games that I have nostalgia for would be fun, but I do appreciate like my gaming perspective now. You know, I wouldn't want to look at every single game like I'm 12 because, well, one, some of those games I shouldn't be playing. They're really gory.
Yeah.
You know? So you can't do that. But
you can't give 8-year-old me Doom Eternal.
You can't do that.
That's not right.
We can't handle it. I get scared easily.
That's not a commentary on anybody's parenting style. If you let your kid play Doom Eternal, that you think that's fine, that's fine with me. But for me, it's not okay. I would have not been able to handle it.
Dude, the movie Armageddon with Bruce Willis gave me nightmares. I can't play Doom Eternal.
Yeah,
no
that's
way.
tough.
Yeah, that's no way. But that's a really good question. So I think if I could flip it on and off, I would do it. If it was a permanent flip of a switch, I would not do it.
Yeah, because then your taste would never grow, right? I think there's a lot of games that I straight up didn't understand when I was a small child. And so I guess it depends on what sort of age or like mental capacity we're locking our brains to. But I think as my capacity to understand things and solve problems grew, that the childlike wonder also disappeared. So there's kind of I don't know if it's a linear function there or not, but like 8-year-old me wouldn't be able to play like a more like strategic game. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be able to play Warcraft 3 again or something like that as an 8-year-old. I don't think I would have been able to handle that game. So
yeah, I agree. Or like playing like League of Legends or even like
or like Civilization.
Even trying to work in a like MMORPG, like trying to do a WoW raid as a 12-year-old.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do a WoW raid. I would have had a lot of fun with the leveling process and the like gaining experience stuff, like playing old RuneScape again. But doing a raid where I have to sort of think of it as more of a puzzle than just an experience, I don't think I'd be able to do it as a kid.
Some 12-year-olds out there that are great.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
I know me when I was
Wasn't
12, and I was not that person. Yeah, 100%. That's a great question, Mo. Really good one. The next email is from Kyle from Wales.
Ooh.
And the subject is 8,547 minutes of sheer awesomeness.
Is that like a Rent reference? 8,547 minutes.
Yeah, that's Rent too. It's about our podcast.
Yeah.
It's about us renting a studio for the podcast. Hey guys, Kyle from Wales here. Please feel free to use my name and location. Well, I'm glad I said it before I read that. That's good.
Yeah.
Professional podcasting. Here we go. In the last 2 months, you have been the soundtrack to my life. My 3-hour round commute to work, my lunch breaks, and filling my headphones at 3 a.m. when I feed my now 9-month-old daughter.
Oh,
you guys have,
congratulations.
You've sparked so many memories of mine and many conversations between me and my friends. You guys are truly amazing. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for listening, Kyle, and saying the nice things. I have huge memories of mine I'd love to share with you guys, if that's okay with you. Well, if it's not, nothing I can do about it. Haha. So here we go. Growing up with my 2 younger brothers, we were all super competitive at being the eldest. I always had the advantage in gaming until one Christmas, my dad leveled the playing field. 1999 became the year of the Dreamcast in our house.
Nice.
We had a handful of games, but the only 3 or more player games we had was Toy Commander, a toy car shooting game. So on Christmas Day, that was the only one we could play, while I sat wishing that I could play Sonic Adventure 1. I actually looked up Toy Commander. It looks kind of cool, kind of like an Army Man game, but a little more open to other toys. You know,
Okay.
like the levels are in the living room or the kitchen and stuff like that. It looked really, really neat. So Kyle goes on to say, I confidently grabbed the controller ready to take the throne as King of Toy Commander. It did not go to plan. I didn't win my first match for 2 days, aged 11, 9, and 7. All of us capable of winning and losing on any and every map. It's one of the best Christmases growing up. Oh, that's so nice. Like, it's even competitive, you know?
Yeah.
It's fun. On that New Year's Eve, we asked our father if we could stay up as long as we wanted so we could play more Dreamcast. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll play with you on the Toy Commander. Toy Commander. The winner can decide the time. We laughed at him and agreed. My brothers and I put a plan together, picked the map, made ambush tactics, and beckoned him to join us. The game lasted all of 5 minutes. He crushed us, stood up and said, time for bed. It was 10 a.m. The silence was deafening.
That's a classic dad move.
That's an all-pro dad move right there.
Yeah, super pro dad move.
Fantastic.
10 a.m. bedtime. Nailed it.
So Kyle continues to go on to say, turns out he was playing in the nights we were asleep.
Oh, I love it. I love this so much.
Since then, we have played every Christmas, the 4 of us, going on for hours, drinking, laughing, and still winning in turns. That's such a nice story.
Wow,
So that's the first story.
I love that their dad would stay up to practice and just so that he could crush him. Oh man, classic dad moves here. And now that you're a father as well, a 9-month-old daughter, you gotta remember these dad tactics, Kyle.
Solid dad tactics. Also, I had this happen to me, not dad tactics, but teacher tactics. I took a class in college. My senior year, it was rhetoric with video games. And I don't know if you saw that class, Tyler. It was an English class. So
I did not take that.
The teacher of that, we did the whole semester. It was really interesting, really great stuff. There's some good books on game design and ethics in games we read. But at the end of the semester, he's like, we will have a Mario Kart Double Dash tournament. And if any of you can beat me, you will get a big extra credit bump.
Wow.
And we're like, all right, so let's do it. And it got down to me, another student, and him in the finals match. And he just wiped the floor with us.
Wow.
It was not even competitive. He was so far ahead of us. And I'm like, how does this guy, he knew what he was doing, total teacher move, but like a dad move almost in a way.
Yeah.
Also, pretty sure you're not supposed to give out extra credit for gambling in video games, but still, it's fine. It's fine.
Hey, you guys were all over 21, I'm sure.
Yeah, state school. No big deal. Everything's okay. So, all right. Kyle
Go
goes on. Go Cougs. Kyle goes on to say the second is more of a fate memory. When playing games as a female character, I have always named her Tilly. No idea why or for what reason, but as long as I remembered, I've used Tilly. When myself and my partner found out we were expecting, we decided not to find out the gender. So we planned to come up with 5 boys' names, 5 girls' names each, and then sit down and narrow it down to 1 boy, 1 girl. We settled on my partner's favorite, Matilda, or Tilly for short.
Oh, yeah.
It's strange because we couldn't actually settle on a boy's name for one reason or other, and my partner was oblivious to the fact that I have used Tilly for the last 20-something years. Lo and behold, we had a daughter, thank God, because we didn't still have a boy's name. I can't wait to give her my copy of Pokemon Pearl with a full living dex with the character's name Tilly, made in 2007.
Wow.
These are great stories. It's great. And so
that is a really great story. And like that's one of those things that seems kind of silly that you would be so stoked to use this name that you've been using for decades in video games. But like it means a lot to be able to do that. Like I don't know, I could see somebody thinking that's silly, but I don't. I think it's really, really awesome.
That is really great. And then Kyle ends the email by saying, my favorite parts of your podcast have been a chocobo named Desire and the history of id. I'm looking forward to your next huge series. I have a suggestion for a series for you guys, the 100 must-play games according to Codex. I'd love to hear your opinions and the list itself made by you guys. I wonder if you'd avoid filling it with franchises, or if you would lean towards a particular genre, or even your personal likes would leave out some potentially great games. I'm not a huge fan of Halo, for example, so it wouldn't make my list.
Wow,
Sorry for the long
100.
email. That's a lot of games.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to have finished the whole catalog and send the email. Happy spider butt farming, Kyle from Wales. P.S. A question. What is your biggest learning curve in gaming? Mine was when my mother got me a bootleg copy of Pokemon Silver, which was in French. It took me nearly 150 hours, but I beat the Elite Four. I never got to Kanto. Maybe worth a revisit.
Wow, that's very impressive. A bootleg copy of Pokemon Silver.
I think I know what my biggest learning curves are. There's 2 games that stood out to me, and they're recent because you've played these games with me, and they are League of Legends and World of Warcraft, hands down. Because those games have been around forever. There's so much to know, so much to learn.
They constantly add to both of those games too. Full disclosure, I work at Riot Games, so I'm not trying to toot our horn, but we do add a lot to the game all the time. And so there is a huge burden of knowledge that is what the team often talks about. And like they think about that a lot when they're adding new champions to the game and stuff, because it's like there's 150 champions. If you're just starting today, that's a lot to learn. Like when I started playing the game like 10 years ago, there were half that many champions, if that. And, you know, there's just so much to know, and so much of it is literally just memorizing. Like I know when you will have a matchup and you'll be like, what does this guy do? And all the other people in the game with you can be like, oh, he does this, 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 and this. And you're like, how do you remember that? And it's like, I've just been playing the game for so long. I just know, you know?
Yeah, it's true. And when you actually think about that kind of stuff, you can like really, it's kind of interesting when you learn it, you have that eureka moment, you know, like, oh, wow, I know what to do here, which was really fun for me to have in League of Legends. But don't get me wrong, I'm still bad and I get stomped all the time. So anyway,
I've been playing the game for 10 years, still bad. Still get stomped all the time.
Yeah. Kyle from Wales, thank you so much for the email. That was really nice. 2 great stories. And then a good, like 100 must play games, according to Codex, could be like an anniversary episode series. That would be fun.
I like that a lot. Like we could do, we'll have to talk about how we could do that. Cause like, do we do 1 episode per game? Well, it'll take us a decade to get through them all. But,
or do we do 10 games an episode, 10 episodes? That probably is more, 5 and do 20. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Or maybe we do it like, well, this game, we're going to talk about my favorite game of all time. So I'm going to take the whole episode and talk about it, you know?
Yeah. Also, we'd have to think about too, like what would constitute that list. Like, can we do modern games? Or are we still talking like, do we have our history rules in place? We got to wait, you know?
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
I feel like we'd have to do it in no particular order as well.
Yeah, there's no way we could do it in an order. It would be just...
Yeah, because if we take enough time, the things will become eligible for that. Anyway, we could talk about this later, but that's a great idea, and I love the idea. What was the other game you were going to talk about? You said League of Legends was your biggest learning curve. Is there one other?
World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah, that one's tough too. Except for a similar reason. I mean, the game's over a decade old, so it's 16 years old, right?
Yeah, it's so old, and also just not knowing the basic structure of MMOs of like being a tank or being a DPS or a healer, like not knowing that and then trying to tank for the first time and not really understanding
what the point of that role is. Yeah. And that's,
yeah.
But you have a leg up now that you're trying Final Fantasy 14 because a lot of that stuff transfers over, at least conceptually.
Yeah. And I'm just straight up trying to do DPS because I want to make it easy on myself, not to have to hold aggro or anything like that.
So now you just have to not stand in the fire. which is also difficult.
Which is difficult for me, that's for sure. So anyway, thank you again, Kyle. That was a great email. All right, the next one is from Shane. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah. Shane says, "Hi, Mike and Tyler. Shane here with another book question. Have you read The Games That Weren't by Frank Gaskin? It's all about games that died during some point in development. I would love to hear you make a series about all the games that didn't quite make it. Thanks for everything and keep making the podcast." I have not read that book, but that's a really interesting concept for a book. And I mean, like, there are games that was disappointed that were canceled, but I'm sure there are even more games that never see the light of day, that never even get an announcement. Like, I know we have a R&D department at Riot that is constantly like spinning up games and killing them without telling anybody about them, you know? I would love to like learn about a lot of games like that. What do you think, Mike?
I mean, yeah, I love the Vaporware series we did. So like that was super interesting to me just to research and everything. So this would be awesome to do. So I definitely am putting this book. I feel like we might switch to doing more books soon. You know, I'm kind of in a book mood.
Me too.
So this would be a really good one. I think this would be great. So
yeah. Plus, we did the first volume of the Ultimate History of Video Games, and there's another one coming out pretty soon. So
yeah, we did Masters of Doom, and so there's a lot of game books out there. And then there's these game books that I have that aren't even really history, but more about like rhetoric and ethics that I think would be kind of interesting to cover, even though that's not really our bag, but they might have some history in them too. I'm going to reread them essentially and be like, can I do these on the podcast, or is this just for me? So
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Shane. That's a great question. And the answer is that book sounds awesome, and we will look into it for sure. The next one is from Burger Champ, our friend. And I forgot how to say subject line on an email is Burger Champ Gets Real. Hey guys, don't want to bring the show down, but I want to take a knee and get serious with you for a second. With all the news surrounding the horrible things coming to light in the investigation of Activision and the even sadder reality of how prevalent it is in the creation of media, how much of a role does your personal morality play in your decision to buy or play games? Do you vote with your dollar? Do you feel comfortable playing games you already own from problematic developers? Please read a fun email from Mo about how real or fake pieces of armor in games or something after this one to bring the mood back up.
Oh, we already read a Mo email.
Oh, man, Burger Champ. You know what? This is a really good question.
And I was talking to Mike before we started recording about this is definitely something that I've wrestled with specifically because like I said, I don't talk about this a lot on the podcast, but I guess this is the episode where I talk about it a lot, is that I work at Riot Games, which has had a similar thing happen to them as Blizzard. And it's a hard thing, like, because there are so many people that work at these companies that are not in those leadership positions, that are just doing their jobs, and they're doing a great job, and they are geniuses, and they are total bosses at what they do, and they make great games. And it's hard for me to say, well, I don't want to play the thing that you have put thousands of hours of your life into because somebody else in this company has done something horrible.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't want to reward like on a if you think of a company as a singular entity, like, I don't want to reward companies that don't treat their employees well, right? And like that, so it's very difficult, and I think it just depends on. It's a very personal question, and I think it depends on just what your gut tells you. It's like, can I no longer enjoy Blizzard games because of all of the stuff that is coming out about them? And if the answer is yes, I don't think anybody should judge you for that. I also think that if your answer is no, I can no longer enjoy, I think the other way makes sense too, I guess. I don't know. This is a really a question that lands very closely to me, and something that I struggle with regularly. So I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I agree with you. It's very hard. Also, it's hard because usually the people that are messing things up and doing things, whether they're like ethically or just, it's usually people in power. So that means when you are buying these games, you're giving them more money than the people that are actually working on the game. So that makes it even harder. But personally, I think that, I don't play FIFA. I don't play NBA 2K. I don't play those games that are like loot boxy. Mm-hmm. I was pretty upset when Star Wars Battlefront 2 went through that whole loot box thing because I wanted to play that game and I didn't play it. And then they fixed it, and then I played it on Game Pass, or I got a copy of it. Actually, I bought it. And it's hard because, like you said, like it's I don't want to say it's an inevitable part of games. I mean, this is a deeper conversation, I think, more about capitalism than anything else. But
Yeah.
it is something you have to think about. And the way I look at it, and I look at it a lot stand-up comedy has had so many problems recently with both comedians and club owners, and I have to think about it a lot too. And I think about the same thing that you do, Tyler, where I think about the people that work for these companies and did nothing wrong, and this is their job, and they need a job.
Right.
And I want to support them, but I guess it really is like I look at what it is and I look how egregious it is and I decide you got to make a personal call, and you have to respect people's personal calls too, because you can't be that person that gets mad at every single person for buying FIFA, because FIFA is one of the biggest games in the world. Right. So, and there's probably people that don't even think about it. There's probably someone.
Oh, there's a ton of people that don't even think about it. They don't even know that it's happening, and so there's that sucks too.
I have a friend who like plays NBA 2K and just buys like every loot box, just like drops all this cash. And I'm like, this is like not cool, right? And he's like, what?
You're the guy that's doing this, man.
Yeah, he doesn't even think about it. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I think about it, but I have to make exceptions because like I dislike EA, but I really liked Jedi Fallen Order,
Yeah. And
so it's like, am I going to deprive myself of this game that I know I'm going to enjoy because of it? So it's a really hard question. And
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's so hard. It is no good answer. It's like you got to think about it and you look at yourself and know that you can't really judge others for what they do, because there are people I know that are like diehard, like this game company's doing a terrible thing, I'm not going to support them at all. And then there's people that don't care or are not paying attention. And then there's me in the middle being like, how do I do the right thing?
Yeah.
And there's so many things in life that's like this though, right. When you support a restaurant, when you buy food, when every little decision you make with how you spend your money probably negatively affects someone else in some way. And it's upsetting, it's hard. It's capitalism. So.
Yeah. I would be interested to hear other people's thoughts on this.
I would too.
And like I said, for me, it comes down to because I personally know a lot of people who work on video games and pour their heart and soul into it that never did anything wrong, that are now being, and it's not necessarily about the money, right? It's not like, oh, well, they don't make as much money now because a bad thing happened, right? But it's like people deliberately choose to not enjoy a piece of art that somebody that I know has made, and that person didn't do anything wrong. And like, so you pay when you enjoy a piece of art, like you pay your money, right? And like I can understand, I don't want to give Bobby Kotick money, right? Because he's already rich enough, and like I don't need to give him any more money. But when I enjoy a game that is made by EA or is made by a studio that EA owns, like I'm giving money to that studio because I bought the game, sure, but I'm also giving them my attention and my time and my I'm enjoying what they have put together. And like as an artist, like that's kind of what you want ultimately, is for people to enjoy the thing that you want. Like you need to make money because that's the world we live in, right? But like ultimately you're doing what you're doing because you want people to enjoy the thing that you're making. And it really sucks that it's hard for people to enjoy that thing that you're making when somebody higher up the chain has done something bad. So that's what I struggle with. But at the same time, I don't want to give Bobby Kotick money, right? Because it's pretty clear that he's not a great dude. And so that sucks. And so it's a personal choice that I think you have to make it on a like company by company basis, or even a game by game basis of like, well, how much value am I expecting to get myself out of this? How much value am I giving those, especially the artists and the people and the designers, the people that work on this game? Like how much value am I giving them just by interacting with their thing? And then how much money am I giving to people who I don't like? And make that call on a game by game basis. The question here about, do you feel comfortable playing games you already own from problematic developers? If I've already given them the money for it, then I'm just depriving the artists of and artist is a all encompassing term for people who made the game, right? I'm just depriving those folks of what they're doing when they make the thing. They want me to enjoy it. Like I'm just depriving them of that. If I already own the game. And so I don't have a problem playing games I already own from problematic developers. But I can definitely see myself thinking twice about giving them more money for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm of the mindset, like, with the do you feel comfortable playing games with you already own from problematic developers? Well, I didn't know. That's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah,
and I can't.
if I could go back in time and
Would I fix it? Yes, of course. But what's done is done. It's too late. Especially when you buy something digitally, where you're just like, well, I can't return this game. Like it's just here
and
now.
You're just depriving yourself of the joy that you could still get from a game.
Yeah,
because to spite somebody who's never even going to know that you're not playing their game, right? They already got what they wanted from you, which is the money. So you kind of have to take the L on that one and just don't deprive yourself further, I think.
Yeah, these are the kind of questions that keep me up at night. I'm a pretty anxious person. I found out about myself pretty recently, and it's really hard because even little decisions like this place doesn't have recycling can set me off on a downward spiral. Yeah. So when I think about things like this, it's just I can't dwell on this for too long because it'll just get to me, and I think that's hard. I think what Burger Champ says here of do you vote with your dollar? I think the answer is yes, and the optimistic approach is hopefully things like this will get weeded out as I like to think we're becoming better as a society about this, and hopefully voting with your dollar and being active and recognizing it is going to help. And that's the optimistic view. And that's, I think, the best that a lot of us can do. Because honestly, a lot of us just aren't in those positions of power to do anything. So voting with your dollar. So great email, Burger Champ. Does Mo have something friendly? Let's look.
Yeah. And voting with your dollar. So one last thing about voting with your dollars. It's I don't get to tell them why I'm not spending money either. So it's hard. Voting with your dollar is hard. All they know is that they didn't make money and they don't necessarily know why they didn't make money. And so that's hard as well to deal with. Yeah.
Because a lot of times
I don't get to say I'm not buying your game because you put loot boxes in FIFA, right? You don't really get an outlet to say that. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. That's voting with your dollar is hard too.
Also, I think voting with your dollar is hard too because another example of that is EA stopped making games like Jedi Fallen Order because they thought they didn't sell as well. So if you don't buy Jedi Fallen Order, that might just tell them this genre is not working. It
means we just need to keep making FIFA because that's what sells. And it's well, that's not the message I wanted to send.
Exactly. Yeah, it's mixed messages there. So actually, this next two emails from Hunter are going to brighten up the conversation, I think.
So our next email here is from Hunter. The subject line is DK family situation. Hunter says, "Hey guys, love the podcast. First of all, the reason why there are so many different species in the Kong family is because it is the name of a tribe, not necessarily a family name. However, certain members are related. Cranky Kong is the grandfather of modern Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country, and he is the dad of DK Jr. DK Jr. is supposed to be modern DK's dad. Anyway, thanks for the great episode. Interesting. Does that check? Because 1994, if say DK is 20 years old in 1994, and maybe there's a list somewhere where this is canon and I'm just arguing with something that can't be argued with, but if he's 20 years old in 1994 and Cranky Kong was 20 years old in the original Donkey Kong, I'm just making this up, right? Maybe he's 30.
This is hard because I don't know gorilla biology.
True.
So,
I'm going off of human years, so...
Yeah, but, what's that in gorilla years is what you got to think about.
Right. And so 1982 to 1994 is 14 years.
I would think that when these games are taking place, it's in the peak of the Donkey Kong's youth,
Yeah. But Donkey Kong Jr. is in Mario stuff as Donkey Kong Jr., not as Donkey Kong, not as Diddy Kong, right?
Also, then you got to ask yourself, who's racing those carts?
Right.
Who's fighting in the Smash Brothers tournaments? There's so many layers to this DK
so what I'm
family
saying
situation.
Is game's not realistic and we shouldn't be playing it.
Yeah, that's probably it. That's probably the best. You know what? But I love about DK. He wears a tie. I like it when he wears a necktie.
That's true.
I'm into that. But yeah, that's this makes a lot of sense, and that would explain why Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong are in the tribe also. So I like that.
Yeah. Furthermore, a question here that he has in a separate email they followed up with. Have you considered doing an episode on Donkey Kong Country games not made by Rare? I really enjoyed Tropical Freeze. Great. I would love to. Donkey Kong Country Returns is probably old enough for us to consider it history. Tropical Freeze is still pretty new.
Was Tropical Freeze for the Wii or the Switch?
It was for the Wii U, but it did come out on the Switch.
Wow, I was wrong in both ways.
It came out very recently on the Switch, but it was on the Wii U.
Well, I think if it's a Wii U title, we could talk about that then. Because, if we can't do that with Nintendo re-releases, because they're just going to re-release everything they can.
That's true.
So, I think we could do Tropical Freeze in the other one. Thank you, Sean from Washington.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Also for clearing up the whole DK family situation.
Yeah.
This next email, I think, is more towards your episode about Rare, and I think you should read this one from Mo.
Okay, this one's from Mo. Quick note on David Wise and GBA audio. Hey dudes, Mo here. I'm so glad you gave a shout out to David Wise. He's one of my favorite video game composers, and I don't think it's controversial to say his Donkey Kong Country soundtracks are some of the best in video game history. No controversy here, totally agree. Also, David and his band will occasionally play live shows featuring songs from Donkey Kong Country. You can find some videos of this on his Twitter feed at David_Wise. He really pushed the limits of SNES audio hardware to create some of those tracks. Sticker Push Symphony and Aquatic Ambiance are classics, but Wise has been quoted as saying Forest Interlude was his favorite track because of how technically difficult it was to make those sounds work on the Super NES hardware. Forest Interlude, I think I can listen to that one in my head. I will spare you all my terrible singing of just acting it out, but I think I know exactly which song you're talking about. It's from Donkey Kong Country 2.
I gotta Google these when we get done with the episode, because I know Sticker Brush Symphony and Aquatic Ambiance, but I do not remember Forest Interlude.
Yeah. Mo goes on to say, Donkey Kong Country 3 was mostly scored by someone else named Eveline Fisher, and some critics noticed the lack of the full sound that Wise was able to achieve on the first two games. They did get David Wise to rescore DKC 3 for the GBA in 2005, and it's fantastic, but unfortunately, GBA's audio hardware was notoriously poor, so it can be difficult for some to listen to. I'm surprised I didn't mention that, because there was another, I remember reading that there was another composer for Donkey Kong Country 3, and I must have left that out, so my bad on that. Mo says, when they designed the original GBA, they severely limited audio quality to limit CPU usage and to save space on the cartridges. Also, the GBA built-in speaker was hot garbage, and gamers didn't use headphones as often back then. This is true, can confirm. Never plugged headphones into my GBA, speaker was hot garbage.
Yeah, I think I had the original white Game Boy Advance, and it was Garbo. I remember that. Yeah. It was not great. It sounded terrible.
For reference, the standard CD audio sample rate, one of several indicators of sound quality, is 44.1 kilohertz. The SNES audio hardware compressed and sampled sounds down to 32 kilohertz, which isn't great, but not noticeably bad. Most GBA soundtracks were compressed all the way down to 11 kilohertz or worse. That's 25% the sample rate of CD quality music, and you can tell. Some tracks sound like they were recorded with an old Nokia cell phone. Advanced Guardian Heroes on the GBA compresses sound all the way down to 7.8 kilohertz, RIP quality. Anywho, I studied some audio engineering in college and thought I'd pass along some tidbits from my latest YouTube rabbit hole. Spider Butts, Mo. That is, those are some good facts and makes sense why the GBA sounds pretty bad. Like, that's the generally, like, when people say, oh, Game Boy Advance, it's basically a Super Nintendo in a handheld. And that's true from a power perspective. But the sound quality, the sound hardware on the GBA is definitely noticeably worse than a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, and that also makes me feel really good that we do this one at 128 kilohertz, so no big deal. This podcast.
Yeah, no big deal.
MVD just crushing the standard CD quality audio sample rate. Boom. Right? Everyone knows that.
Yes, I think you're comparing two different things.
Probably did not go study audio engineering in college. Will I cut this out? Probably not. So it's staying in. Errors.
I think I record at 44 kilohertz, 44.1 kilohertz.
I guess I'm talking about when I compress the file down to an MP3.
You're talking about the data compression on it, which we compress it down to 128, you said?
I
for
usually
the
do
MP3?
128, for the MP3.
Yeah. Those are separate comparisons.
TIL. So feels good.
But our audio hopefully is roughly CD quality is what we're hoping for here.
Oh, you know what? I think I do 44. No, I think I actually record it at 48 on my Zoom. On my Zoom. Nope, I'm wrong. Well. It says 44.1 wave.
Perfect.
I'm looking at it right now. Boom.
Matched. We did it.
You know what? So I could say take that SNES audio hardware.
Got him.
Yeah, still can get them. Look at that. All right. We're fine. Everything's okay. Let's just move right along from that. All right. The last email we have is once again from Shane. And it says, serious nostalgia is the subject line. Dear Mike and Tyler, Shane here. I am not fully caught up on your most recent episode. I only found the podcast in May of 2021. So I just heard episode 149. In that episode, someone asked about the ultimate history of video games volume 2. I emailed and asked almost the exact same question in June. I apologize for the repeat answer I forced you to give. Here's hoping I don't do it again. Don't hold your breath. Honestly, Shane, that's fine. It's just another reminder, that we're going to do it, that we're going to cover the book. So it's totally fine. Good. It's totally okay. Don't beat yourself up. So I don't know if there is a question in here or not, but we can find out together. I wanted to share a moment of intense nostalgia I had recently. I had the original Xbox and Halo when it launched when I was in high school. Like everyone else, I played the heck out of this game. The beach landing of Silent Cartographer is easily my favorite part of the game. Wow, Shane, I didn't know we were best friends. This is my cue.
That is a great
That
part.
is a great scene when you're like rushing the beach.
Yep. That was in the demo too. So everybody who downloaded like the free demo to play Blood Gulch on their PCs or to play it in like the computer lab at school could also play Silent Cartographer.
I didn't realize like every level in Halo 1 to me is a banger. Like Truth and Reconciliation was my favorite for a while.
Except the library.
Yeah, except for the library. That repetitive mess of terrifying flood. But still, like, also though, in the way the library is good because it's like a memory that you have playing with your friends. Like you all collectively hate this level, which bonds you together in a way.
Yeah, which like sort of ironically makes it more fun.
Exactly. So, okay, Shane goes on to say, despite having plenty of other games that I love for PS2, PS1, GameCube, and Dreamcast, I wasn't rich or spoiled. I had a job and paid for everything myself. Well, we didn't think anything of you, Shane, so it's fine, but it's good to know. I kept Halo in my after-school and weekend rotation. Halo was a favorite to be sure, but I wouldn't say that I liked it any more than any other favorite. Fast forward to today, and I am replaying Tony Hawk 1 and 2 on PS5 after not playing them in 20 years. The games are amazing, and I'm reminded of how much I loved them the first time around. However, I recently bought the Halo Master Chief Collection on Xbox Series S and fired up the first Halo. Unlike Tony Hawk, when I just remembered how fun they were playing Halo, also for the first time in 20 years, was truly surreal. I was transported back to my youth, sitting in my parents' basement, playing for hours, eating pizza, drinking soda. Who am I anyway? John Carmack? And trying to decide how I was going to ask the hot girl in class for a date. Dude, Halo is a great date, I think, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing more romantic than Hang 'em High, if you ask me. All right. Anyway, after all this, I suppose my question is, has any game given you a shocking amount of nostalgia that you did not expect? In my case, I thought it was so interesting that it was Halo and not one of the many other favorite games I picked up from my years past. Well, I have taken up way too much of your time, so I'll cut you loose. Thanks for reading and keep making awesome episodes. Spider Butts forever. Shane. P.S. I decided to ask the girl out flat out instead of trying to be cute. She said no. Okay.
Well, you know, hey, if somebody doesn't want to say yes, then they're not the person for you. That's
right. You miss
100%
of the shots you don't take. Isn't that a thing? So there you go.
Right.
I honestly had really big Halo feels, but for me, and it was not even playing the game, I just had a connection with a friend that I didn't know she liked this, but she also had Snowboard Kids for N64.
Oh, great game.
And that game is something that just, I get taken back because I loved that game so much. And it's such a weird, obscure thing, but when I find someone else that played it and liked it, it's like my eyes light up and I get so excited. And we were at a birthday party for someone else, and I was like, yeah, I used to play Snowboard Kids. And she's like, I love Snowboard Kids. And I'm like, you are the first person in real life I've talked to that's like told me they like this game as much as I do, because I love that game so much. So that's my real big nostalgia moment. And I guess I would say the original Perfect Dark too. When I picked that up again, I was just like, oh my gosh, this game is so good. What about you, Tyler?
Well, I regularly replay games that I loved a lot as a kid, which sort of dampens the nostalgia feel because I have played them so often. I don't ever get this like rush of like, oh my gosh, I haven't touched this game in 20 years, because there are very few games that I haven't touched in 20 years. So I'm trying to think of like, I would have to go back into my N64 Super Nintendo library and find the games that I didn't like all that much and like didn't play a whole lot of, and then thus never picked up again later on in life. Like, and maybe if I went back to that old Toy Story game, I might feel something like that. But I'd have to like look at my library, because if I can't remember, like if I can remember it off the top of my head, then I probably have played it, you know, within the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. There was an Army Man game for N64. I don't know if it was Sarge's Heroes or not, but it was like a third-person shooter where you were kind of like adventuring through like a kitchen and then a living room. And I think if I played that game, I'd get that same feeling now. Yeah. Morrowind also gives me that feeling. Strong.
I do get... Oh, so with Morrowind?
Yeah, that hits me. And I picked that up like a year ago, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like landing in Balmora, or not landing in Balmora, landing and going to Balmora. Because I think you're starting Seda. Is it Seda Anine? I think is the name of the town. Someone's screaming into their microphone right now about it, or their headset, or whatever those. Yeah, I just love Morrowind. Like it's such a weird fantasy game. Like the whole art style is different and weird than say like Oblivion or Skyrim. It's just, gives me the feels.
Yeah, I do get nostalgia for old hardware. So like I've recently, by recently I mean in the past like year or two, I fired up a very old Mac that I grew up with, and like just seeing the stuff on the desktop that was like basically still there from like 25 years ago when we left, when we used it for the last time, was like a sort of like personalized hit of nostalgia. So I like, that's one of the reasons I like to use old hardware that I grew up with. Or stuff that I wanted to have when I was a kid too. If I could get like one of those colorful iBooks that they came out in like 1999, 2000. I never had one growing up. I've never owned one, but I think if I did get one, that would be a hit of nostalgia because I looked at those online so much and I wanted one so bad, that I'm worried that if I get one now, it will not meet my expectations and I'll be very sad. So I haven't got one yet. Plus they're like really expensive. I've looked them up on eBay. They're like $200 or $300. I'm like, nah, it's too much.
Not worth. Yeah. I've been thinking about Sega Genesis a lot and I'm just like, do I need this really? Or do I just want to feel the controller in my hand again? Should I just go buy a controller and hold it and cry for a bit, Yeah. But anyway, Shane, that is a fantastic email. And thank you so much. Tyler, what you been playing this week?
More Final Fantasy 14, man. I'm trying to get to the end of the story stuff. I finished up through the patch 5.3, which is sort of the end of the storyline of the Shadowbringers expansion. And so 5.4 and 5.5, which are out now, are kind of leading into the new expansion. So there's definitely like a cutoff point of like, this story is done and now we're getting ready to start the next story. So I haven't played as much of the story stuff. Plus, I don't think I'm gated by story stuff right now for any content. So I've been just farming it up, playing all the raids over and over again to farm the gear that you can get from them because they don't have a weekly lockout on them anymore. They're old enough that you can just play them over and over to get the gear. So I've been doing a lot of that. I've been playing Ocarina of Time still on 3DS. That's a really good port of Ocarina of Time. It's probably the definitive version of that game. I'm sure somebody is yelling that does something wrong and the N64 version is far superior, and maybe they're right, but I'm having fun with it. Trying to think if there's anything else. Nothing else that I really have put any time into. I loaded up Grand Theft Auto 3 for a few minutes. I was like, this is cool, and then I put it away. I mostly just wanted to see if I could get it working on my computer because it's such an old game that it doesn't run out of the box. You have to like do some stuff to get it to work. But yeah, otherwise that's kind of all I've been playing. What about you? What have you been playing this week, Mike?
I took kind of a break from Final Fantasy 14 because I have been all up in Skyward Sword this week.
Oh, nice.
I'm really enjoying it. I just got into the Earth Temple, like the second temple, and I'm having fun. I'm just playing it in like sporadically throughout the week. Like I haven't put a ton of time into it, but I started doing the gratitude crystal thing because this story about the demon that wants to be human because he's just super nice is making me very happy. It's very Zelda-y to me, like a very Zelda-y story, and I love it. And because I get down there and I'm like, am I going to have to kill this demon to save this kid? He's like, don't hurt me. I'm just trying to be friends with everybody. And this little girl's my friend. And I'm like, this is just pure Nintendo cuteness,
Yeah.
Just a scary demon making friends and trying to be a friend. So I was getting a lot of those gratitude crystals and doing all the side quests because I want to see this demon look human so he can be friends with people. But I really just wish the people of Skyloft would accept him how he is. That's what I really want to happen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm having fun with that, and that's what I'm kind of playing this week too. But I'm thinking about like Final Fantasy 14, and I think I'm just going to play this story. I don't know how like into it I am.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like it's just another MMO kind of thing to me, but I do like that I can just skip and just go do only main quests. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything but main quests, but you really should pay attention because I have skipped a lot of main quest stuff, and then later on when they bring stuff back, like I don't know what's happening, and I feel bad because people regularly say like some of the stories in 14 are like the best RPG stories of their favorite Final Fantasy stories, and they haven't hit as hard for me because I skipped a lot of stuff early on.
So I gotta be careful. Okay, well I'll look into that.
So just do the main quests. That's all you have to do, but make sure you pay attention to them so that you know what's happening.
I will say the music is infinitely better than WoW.
100%.
I'm just like that. I don't even think it's a hot take. I think most people that play the two would agree.
I agree.
Way better. But I'm loving it being thaumaturge, and it's fun. It's really fun. So anyway, we got a review, Tyler, and I would say this is a negative review. It's not negative in stars. It's 4 stars. But I guess I'll say this person says hurtful things about us. I guess. But here we go. Specifically, the title is They Just Read Wikipedia Out Loud. And I would tell you the name of the reviewer, but it's all emojis. So we're just going to skip that. And it goes like this. I was a big fan of their beginning episodes, but after they finished the book, they kind of got lazy. I mean, I enjoy the community aspects of this show, and these guys seem so nice, so it's hard to be critical of them. But they rarely ever replay the games they're discussing, and it's just all very surface level, I read here or I watched this video kind of stuff. So it feels a little bland to me. But also, if you just like listening to 2 dudes have a wholesome, friendly chat about games, then this might be for you. Overall, good show. I'm excited to see how these new episodes covering the second book will be. So it's not like a super negative review. I just think the title, They Just Read Wikipedia Out Loud, it just hurt my feelings. If I can say that. But I mean, I get where they're coming from. I mean, if this show doesn't do it for you and you stop listening, I think our big message we want to send is that's totally fine.
That's okay. Yeah.
That's totally valid. Now, it's interesting that he says kind of lazy because I honestly think the research was way easier when we had the books.
Yeah, I agree because we just read the chapter and sort of summarized it and talked about it.
Yeah, I spend way more time doing research now, which is why I think that They Read Wikipedia Out Loud title hurt me. But I mean, I get it. If it's not for you and you're just expressing that to people, that's what these reviews are for. So that's totally fine. And hopefully we will do the second book and you'll enjoy it again. And honestly, I like the idea, like we mentioned in the email before, of doing other books. Because it seems like there's a lot of books out there that I don't really know about. And it is fun for us because it helps us out. Truthfully, like, I mean, it's going to be neat to go back to a book again. I'm actually really excited for it. So,
well, I just want to take a minute to appreciate that this person had thoughts about what we do and wanted to share them with us. Most of the time when I listen to something or consume a piece of media that I don't enjoy, I just put it away and I stop enjoying it, right? And I move on with my life. And so for this person to care enough to let us know that what we're doing isn't really hitting the mark for them, like I appreciate them letting us know that because that's actually very nice of them, I think, to tell us that. That said, if we're not doing it for you, hey, that's fine. And if, we will take your words into account when we make changes on the show. And, that's fine. That's fine.
And we'll bring them back with the second book talk, hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, so that's our review. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be great. You can follow us on, I believe Spotify is where you can follow podcasts on. That helps us out too, I believe.
Yeah, I think the Apple Podcast app now has you following apps or podcasting instead of subscribing. Yeah,
so that helps us out. So if you want to leave us a review, that would be nice. You can send us an email at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. We usually read them during the episodes, but we also do these mailbag ones too, which is kind of fun. Scheduling note. So next week I am gone on vacation. This is all my fault. Do not blame Tyler at all. So we will be re-releasing a previous episode. And then the week after that, we have a very, very, very special episode.
Yeah. That one, I'm excited for that one. It's different. We haven't done anything like it before.
And I'm very excited about the episode. So in 2 weeks, you're going to get that. Next week, you're going to get a re-release of a previous episode. I'm at @mecoletta on Twitter, and you can join our Discord through the pinned tweet I have at the top of my profile. And Tyler's on Twitter at SneakerElf, ELPH. If you want to send him a message or tweet at him about some cool audio stuff and David Wise. I might follow David Wise on Twitter. I think this is a cool follow, and I shout out to Mo for bringing that up. But other than that, I think that's the episode for today. Do you want to say bye to everybody, Tyler?
Yeah, before I say bye, I want to apologize briefly for my dog barking through the door. It's about her dinner time, or what she thinks is her dinner time, and so she's been kind of yelling at me. So I apologize for that.
I think it's because she loves video games and we've never had her on as a guest.
Probably. She's the one yelling into her microphone about the place that you start in Morrowind.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, you want to say bye to everybody?
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.